I never feel I have to clarify when I'm reading something that's written down as opposed to when I'm speaking in my own voice. I think it's clear enough to you guys. There's some subtle change in the assonance and consonants of my words. I'm going to read you a statement right now that I've got screenshotted here. And for those of you who are over 25, ask yourself, when in my life did this type of political discourse become normal? Quote, "Today I stand with women and people of all bodies, races, sexualities, ages, abilities, nationalities, religions, and species." I'm vegan, but that even took me by surprise. I stand with people of all species. Okay, I hear you. I quote, "I stand with women who make their voices heard and also women who have yet to find their voice. I stand with the women of today, past and future generations. I stand with the women who are exploited by capitalism, greed, and those who try to control." The context for this is, of course, Instagram, and it's a picture of a good-looking young woman on Instagram. This is, in effect, this is the ideological decoration next to a flattering picture of oneself posted on Instagram. This goes on for a few paragraphs, and the crucial verb here is stand with, stand up for, stand. I just ask you, when did this become, mainstream, even the dominant mode of political discourse, where you talk about standing up and standing with and standing for someone or something, when you are sitting on your ass doing nothing? Now, the person who wrote this, I actually do have some respect for. I have some respect for her political activism going back about 5 years. She used to be a really important vegan activist. She's someone I still have some respect for. But at any age, young or old, people can start to slip from the world of nonfiction into the world of fiction. And the internet seems to prompt you, just by presenting you with a chalkboard to fill up, with a blank canvas. It seems to prompt you to give a justification of yourself. Even just think about the format of Instagram. If you created a new Instagram account, what is it? It's a blank slate for you to declare who you are. And people seem to be drawn in, step by step, to making this kind of declaration. Now, I think real political activity, real political activism, real political organization, real humanitarian work, that's why I'm saying activity, I want to include that. I think it's humbling. When I lived in Laos is a poverty-stricken, war-torn country in Southeast Asia. It's currently a communist dictatorship. The United States of America dropped more bombs on Laos than they dropped on Germany in World War II. Country facing tremendous challenges still today. When I was there, medical doctors were getting paid $15 US a month, $45 US a month, that kind of pay range. And then white people would show up and complain that the doctors were corrupt and taking bribes. Their salary was not enough to pay for bus fare. It was just ridiculous. That has changed a little bit, by the way. I've done some reading about the changing political and economic conditions just lately in Laos. When I lived in Laos, never once did I make a statement like this that I've just quoted to you. Never once did I say I stand with the Laotian people or I stand for the Laotian people. And sometimes Laotian people said very flattering and strange things about me. I've told Melissa anecdotes about the few times when people said to me positively, they said that I was Lao. They referred to me as being Lao and me as being a white Lao and so on. A white Laotian. Whatever that means. I mean, I can roll my eyes there, but, it meant something to them. And I had to stand there and think, whoa, what does that mean to me? Because I'm not really on your side, guys. I mean, I'm an outside observer, but I'm coming to this humanitarian work and this research and trying to make the world a better place with a totally foreign agenda. You have every reason to be suspicious of me as an outsider. And what I want for your country and its future, you can decide if my ideas are good or bad. But even my values about ecology, for example, it's not their values. They don't feel that way about cutting down the forest. They don't feel that way about killing every fish in the river. They don't feel that way about hunting down and killing the last tigers in the jungle. So that's my agenda. I came here and I care about the elephants and the tigers and ecology, and you guys don't. So that's my foreign value I'm imposing on you. Even what I have to say about Buddhism. I'm there studying the manuscripts in the library. Nobody else is. And the local people aren't studying those manuscripts of those histories. So, there's a radical disconnect. And look, if I had met someone, even someone who was actually in Laos doing that kind of humanitarian work, if they'd spoken with this kind of rhetoric, I would have regarded them as insane. And I probably would have responded in a kind of compassionate way of trying to talk it through with them and say, well, look, keep this in perspective. A large part of what she says there, she says some stuff about indigenous people and other species, but a large part of it is about women's rights, women being sexually exploited. So you guys know I did a lot of research about slavery, contemporary slavery, sex slavery, trafficking in human lives for sexual exploitation. Also slavery for factories and things like that too. Various forms of slavery that exist today in Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, in that area. The potential, the scope for humanitarian work is very, very limited. And I can remember trying to give people the talk who were kind of new in the game. And I was like, look, this stuff isn't hard to find. Like, it's not hard to find the brothels. It's not hard to find the pimps. It's not hard to find underage prostitutes. It's not hard to find illegal forms of prostitution in contrast to legal. And it's not even hard to find, captive prostitution of the various kinds that exist. But you got to ask yourself, are you Batman? And I was not joking. I had that conversation with people, and you can imagine they're shocked. But I said, let's move past this kind of verbiage. I stand with exploited women. Are you actually going to show up and solve the problem with your fists? You gonna punch somebody out? Are you gonna burn down the brothel? You're gonna kill the pimp? And if you do this kind of thing, let's say you go and punch him, this is human nature. 9 times out of 10, if you punch out the pimp, the prostitute is gonna run over and weep and say, why did you punch? She's gonna be helping him, and she's probably gonna be attacking you. She's probably gonna feel that the person who exploits her is also the person who defends her and provides for her. She probably has some kind of relationship with those people, even though it is partly a relationship of exploitation. There's going to be very, very complex situations to wade into. An anecdote I've already told here, so I'll say it very briefly. I was once in the room when the directors of a Christian charity were talking about their efforts to be Batman by rescuing children who had been sold by their parents. So most of those arrangements were not sex slavery, I would guess, based on the description. Maybe some of them were. But, sometimes they'd sell their children to kind of work in factories and this kind of thing. But sure, sex slavery is very much on the table. So this is Cambodia specifically now. It's true of the whole region. And this Christian charity director said, well, when we first got here, we thought we would just buy these children back, like they'd been sold into slavery, and they'd come in and raise the money and buy them back and give them back to their parents. And when we did that, the parents sold the children again. This isn't a problem Batman could solve. even if you think you are Batman. So it's not just the problem of wake up and admit that you're not Batman. Now, my parents were left-wing extremists. They were not, to even call them communists is too vague. They were not moderate communists. They were not representative of mainstream communists. They were extremists even within communist discourse. So to be fair, someone like Noam Chomsky, he called himself an anarchist. He really represents more mainstream communism, frankly. He wouldn't be happy to hear me say that, but it's the truth. Noam Chomsky supported the Khmer Rouge, supported Pol Pot in Cambodia. Talk about standing for and standing with someone. You stood for Pol Pot, Chomsky, and I already did videos talking about that. Communism, left-wing extremism, I would even say forms of socialism, a lot of forms of socialism, they do perpetuate the idea that you can solve problems with your fists. They perpetuate the idea that the way to end poverty is violence against the rich, for example. And it doesn't just end there. That all you need is violence against the factory owners to set the factory workers free, and so on and so forth through every part of society. And to be fair, the unique historical experience of the United States of America, obviously when you're talking about African American slaves, a little bit of truth to that. There's a little bit of truth that all you needed to liberate the slaves was to massacre the slave owners. It's not what happened in the United States of America. But you can have some situations of exploitation that are so extreme that, sure, you can talk about the role of violence in ending slavery. The United States fought a civil war. And as you guys know, the Civil War was not enough. It was not sufficient. But what I see now on the internet, again and again, sometimes from people I have some respect for, sometimes people I have no respect for, and I'm sure you have seen this also, dear viewer, on Instagram, maybe here on YouTube, is really this strange echo of the idea that you can grandstand, that you can present yourself as someone greater than you are by participating in a kind of abstract and hallowed threat of violence. That's what this is to me. Saying you stand up for and you stand with these oppressed people. I think what you're really trying to tell me is you'd kill somebody if you could. That's really what I get from this. Is that you want to participate in the myth of a revolution, a rebellion, of violence solving this problem. That you want to stand with the oppressed when they, in the imaginary communist revolution or whatever it is, whether you've thought it out that clearly, when the oppressed stand up against the oppressors, you want to be on the side that's winning. And it's sad and it's sick because the internet keeps you trapped in this self-serving ego trip instead of having what I think of as the humbling experience that I had, not just in Cambodia, not just in Laos, but even when I got involved with local politics. Very humbling at Toronto City Hall.